I wasn't watching it that close. Okay, so, but it was okay to kill them if they weren't Christian. So, yeah, no. And I don't hold Christianity at fault. It was the establishment. The establishment, okay? Mankind's creation. We created this monster. And then they made it legal to cause harm, because it's not really harm, because you're dealing with these persons. You're not dealing with your fellow man. And that's exactly what's going on today. They're dealing with Indians from the Indian Act, Aboriginals, First Nations, you know, treaty Indians. They have all these all these names, but I never once hear him say, you know, a man or a woman of original descent, or a man or a woman of native descent, you know. So, like, if I was an Indian, I would never call myself a native man, because it narrows me down to just that. Well, what's the rights, what's the meats and bounds of a native man, right? I would call myself a man, native, right? So, so basically, now the other thing is about dealing with corporations and establishment and so on and so forth. Now these guys, now today, it's not like the old days, okay? In the old days, you pretty much, everyone pretty much had a right to go to court. It was a matter of just doing your filing fee, and you know, it started out that way. You know, you do your file fee, or you swear out your information, and we get court on the way, right? Now there is a basic smell test, but the courts really don't wish to see a man or a woman. Like, seriously, like, they don't wish to have a man or a woman come into the public building and hold court. It's like, and I'm not quite sure why. You know, I'm really not quite sure why. I do realize, you know, there was the stuff going on with, you know, those freemen on the land. Okay, I would never call myself a free man. Now, if you read the Bill of Rights, okay, Diefenbaker Bill of Rights, which is just a piece of legislation, it's not law. It's useless. It's a useless piece of paper, just like that Constitution 1982 Charter. I mean, do you see, it doesn't belong to you and I. It belongs to the government. It belongs to the corporate body politic. This is their mandate on what they're supposed to be doing. You can't make a, you can't say that everyone, what the fuck does that say? Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms: the freedom of conscience and religion. And then go and attack Christian preachers on the street in downtown Toronto. That's wrong. This isn't that man's right, all right? That man who acts as a street preacher. It's not his right. This is the government. This is their mandate. Their fucking mandate. Freedom of thought, freedom of opinion and expression, including freedom of the press and other means of communication. Yet, what, sheer? You're going to arrest and bully guys? You're running for public office. You're taking public donations to run a public campaign and rented a public community hall, and yet you're arresting and bullying the free press, saying it's private? How is any of this shit private? See, they're manipulating us. But this applies to shear, okay? At Casper Milk Toast, this is your mandate. This is what you have to act under. If you want to act like a minister or wannabe politician or some kind of frickin', paid off milk cartel, crooked, useless, spineless, whatever, that applies to them. That doesn't apply to me. That's just a shadow of recognition of what you and I already have. We were born with. And that's the difference between a common law land. Like I said, Google it, common law countries. That's the difference between common law lands and Sharia lands and Napoleonic Civil Code lands. When you attack freedom of speech, everyone is under attack. When we allow our public servants to attack freedom of speech, we deserve what we get. Things need to change, man. We're out of balance. So, but as for now, we are still part of the free world. We are still a common law land with fundamental, intrinsic, inalienable rights. Well, each one means something different, Fundamental is different than intrinsic, which is different than inalienable. It depends on how you apply it. Okay, so I did the basic layout, right? So from and or to and from, it's going to you, it's from me. To whom it may concern, because we didn't have, and like I say, so when I say something like that and say see attached, I put the see attached in brackets and then just attach whatever their document is that was sent to me and send it back, and then wait for a response, right? That's basically it. You can end it. I'll get into ending stuff in a little bit of time here. So you got your colons, and you got your semicolons, and you got your commas, and you got your dash. Any of these things are basically as a pause. A long pause with a change of thought within the same subject matter. A long pause, but you're still within that thought process of the subject matter. A shorter pause, same as that, and a long pause because I didn't feel like doing this. It's basically all they are, right? Like I say, I don't really get off on putting my period until I'm down at the bottom, at the end of my document. And because it's my creation, I stay within the principles of the English language. But it's my creation, and I wish to create it the way I see that it needs to be expressed. So what happens if you start writing like that? Well, then you have this man or woman who acts as somebody with a legal society, and they label you, like if you try to enter a claim or something, even if you use like the Canadian Styles. Okay, so I like the Canadian Styles book. It shows, it's basically a textbook on showing government actors how to properly style when they write. And if you use that as a man or a woman, and it ends up, you go to file your claim or whatever, and you use that style, then all of a sudden they label you and hit you with, I don't know, monkey versus monkey or Meads versus Meads. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not Meads and I'm not monkey. Like, I don't care, and so they immediately label you as some kind of frivolous blah 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 blah. They really are doing their best to keep mankind out of the courtroom. Well, didn't my granddaddy build that courtroom? That public court building? I thought the public court buildings were built for man. I didn't realize that they were built for the legal society, by mankind, financed by the public, just for the legal society, which is a private society, guys, not public. You're not a learned friend. You're not a union card carrying legal member. You're not a bar. So what do we got? We got attack on free speech. They're going to disarm the populace, and they're putting walls up on entering public courthouses for mom and pop. Future looks great, doesn't it? Oh, and don't forget, co-parents. The government's your co-parents, teachers are your co-parents. Those kids, okay? I authored those kids. Look up the word author. Those kids, you know, until they come of age, are property of I. And if I allow you to teach those kids, okay, property of I, here's the mandate that you can teach them. No sex, no drugs, no rock and roll. Okay, maybe some rock and roll. But no sex, no drugs. What you can teach them, though, is reading, writing, arithmetic. And once I check out your history book, I might even let you teach them history. Depending, you know, how crappy the book is, because they've really scaled this shit down. You know, they took grammar out of school. They took phonics out of school. Are you kidding me? Oh, I think they've been taking shop class out of schools. You know, not everyone's an academic. Some people work with their hands. Some people see in 3D, man. And so it's not academia that they're seeing. They're seeing structure, right? Sometimes they're late bloomers. But hey, if you don't fit into the box, then you just don't count, then you're going to get your clinical approved drugs to keep that kid in line. Otherwise you can't come to that Crown corporate school. Can't be a public school. It's publicly funded, but if it was a public school, then all the kids have a right to go to the school, and the teachers are privileged to teach there. Have no right to teach there. Yeah, okay. Get back on this. Like they say, yeah. All right. So the other thing, okay. Know your punctuation and where you wish to put it. Right. So, and it's just a few basic rules. The longer the word, all right, the more syllables. Boom, 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 boom. I got a word with 42 letters. I think that's the longest word in the word. 42 letters. I think it's, oh, jeez. Pneumovolcanosiliaciosis. Yeah, it's silicosis of the lung from volcanic ash. I think it's 42. But I don't even know how many syllables it has. But every time, for every syllable you get a weaker word. Right? So like one word can be, you know, a word created like that, it's talking about volcanoes, it's talking about lungs, it's talking about silica dust, right? So it becomes a weak word, actually. It becomes a word where somebody who is a word nerd, somebody who is, you know, trained within the legal society, somebody who knows how to, an attorney, somebody who is practicing turning shit around, can go and take your word and all of a sudden it has a complete different meaning than what you did wish the other side to see, what you did wish to freely express. So keeping the words down to, okay, I is I. Who are you? I'm not you. I is I. Aye, Captain. That's right. Aye. There's a good word. Boy. There's a good word. 1 syllable. Is it a boy or is it a girl? Identify. Hi-fi. Hi-fi. It's kind of like sci-fi, only different. It's fiction. Identify. Fiction. Right? Because I identify as a Chinaman today. No, I don't. I want to identify as a man, free to express himself on this land. That's the other thing. I don't know if I really touched base on much. You know, like these kangaroo pseudo tribunal court thingies that the Trudeau's put back up. They can't see man, right? I don't see how they could, because they're not of man, they're of something else. Like on this land, like say if I do you wrong, I've either caused you some harm, some loss, or some injury, right? So okay, you called me a snowflake. Now you hurt my feelings. And so I had to go see a psychiatrist. So the only thing I could bring you really up for on this land is the cost of the psychiatrist that I had to put out for. So you know, it's $100 a session, so I had to go there 3 times before I could go back and continue with my studies and concentrate. So then I would sue you for the $300 bill. You know, that's it. There's a guy, oh, okay, this is cool. So a guy in England, right? He's the father of some kind of English actor. You know, it's kind of famous over there. And he'd walk his little dog down the street, and every day he'd allow his dog to poop in his neighbor's yard. Every day. And you ever see English, like they got, you know, small ears, right? So anyways, every day, so this guy come out and asked him, you know, a couple times, hey, you know, come on, man, right? I'm tired of cleaning up your dog shit, right? Stop it, right? And the guy didn't stop it, so one morning he was waiting for him, yeah, he calmly allowed his dog to shit on the guy's property. He ended up in a confrontation. So the guy who lived at the joint that was getting pooped on, he ended up punching the other guy in the nose. So he got some stitches and stuff. Now, when this went to court, this was only, I don't know, it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But when this went to court, basically the man went there and said, hey, how much is the bill? Okay? He went there as a man. All right? He wasn't there as a legal person. He wasn't there being represented as a legal person. He went there man to man to face his fellow man. Yes, I did punch him in the nose. Yes, he did get some stitches. Yes, how much was the bill? He paid the cost of what it cost for the Band-Aid and a couple stitches, and walked out of there. All right, you have to be a legal person to get a legal record. So yeah, so you're you know, they kind of hybrid us. You know, they got their yeah, I know, I can hear you right now saying, oh, that's civil. No, he was in criminal court. It was for assault. but he compensated the man. You see, like this is because this is common law, okay? This is Celtic. This is like you owe. If I cause you harm, loss, or injury, and you bring me before the chief, before the elders, before the court, right, to right a wrong, okay, to settle a dispute, I don't owe society shit. This is the way of our people. This is our heritage. This is our custom. I only owe you, or you owe I. So yeah, so he paid the guy, I think it was 250 pounds or something. And that was the end of it. So the legal case got discharged, and he settled up with his fellow man. That is the land we live on. That's what a common law land is. Right? Now, our Frankenstein does not wish anybody to know this. Because they all want you to act as persons under the authority of our creation. Right? Like even back in the day, I mean, if our native cousins, they were so screwed, and it was usually by pieces of paper, guys, through the legals. It was through the legal society, and you know, it's just, yeah, it was wrong, you know, it's just wrong. And they're doing the same to us now, which is why I'm here explaining this shit, right? So, yeah, so you got a big word. So I keep everything down to small words. Keep the words as small as possible, you know, and that keeps them close to their root meaning, right? You know, I would define boy as not boy, as masculine mankind. I would define girl, or young masculine mankind, young masculine man. I would define girl as young feminine man. So you got your masculine man and your feminine man. You got your male dog and you got your female dog. You got your male and female animals. But when it comes to mankind, we are masculine and feminine. So that's why a male man is not a male man. Anyways. Alright, so yeah, keeping your letters. And the other practice, look, there's no reason to puke your righteous indignation out on a piece of paper and then send it over to give somebody else a bad day. Alright? Like, a lot of people do not know who they are anymore. Our parents, our grandparents, and our great-grandparents, you know, the ball got dropped. And at one time, everyone knew who they were. This is why everyone carried a Bible and took it into court, because they knew the difference between a man and a person. You know, and they knew, you know, our forefathers knew that just this is a Judeo-Christian land, or a Judeo-Christian nation. All right, and they also knew that the customs of the people is of highest law, as long as it's not causing any harm to your fellow man. Which is what pissed me off, you know, when I look back at history, that our forefathers didn't teach our native cousins, because, like, as natural persons, let's just say, or natural folks, and natural, those men of nature, or mankind of nature, you know, they have their creator, they have their beliefs, they have their customs. They know right from wrong. They didn't need a Bible to tell them. All right? But because, well, okay, they were outgunned, all right, by the establishment. there was a legal document that allowed the Hudson's Bay Company and anybody that worked for them to kill the savages that weren't Christianized or whatever, you know, and so, you know, all these legal excuses to cause harm to our fellow man, to women and children, man, it's just disgusting. Our forefathers had a duty and responsibility and obligation to their fellow man to say, hey, look, you know, chief, these are the words, these are the magic words here, and we should be teaching you how to read this stuff, so that when these people come over, they're going to try and trick you with these words. They're going to tell you that this piece of paper says something when it doesn't speak. They're going to tell you that you know, that all your blessings, all your rights come from this piece of paper. They say speaks that you can't hear. So we should have taught them the magic symbols of the English words. That's what our forefathers should have done. And I'm sure there must have been some that did. I bet you. I just can't see everybody being a goof, being just, you know, evil, like I'm seeing today. The evil, man, the monsters come out in these folks today on this land. It's just crazy. You know, it's nuts. You know, they run around with signs that says love. Then they go and beat people. You know, they call themselves like anti-fascists, but they're totally fascists. Like, it's like, oh, if we say this, we can act the opposite way. You know, it's like, fuck. And they're being financed, you know, to go and do this, and our public service, our little Frankenstein, is allowing all this shit to happen. So what I would like to see is a campaign of letters to go to each man and woman. So when I'm done, so what have I got here? I got 15 days left on YouTube before they're going to kick me off for not being commercially viable. YouTube platform, right? No, we built them up. They financed it. It's their game. It's Alphabet's game. They financed it. They can do whatever they want. You know, which is fine. You know, it's not my YouTube. It's their YouTube. Who is you, anyways? I am I. I would call it iTube. But I can see it on their side also. I mean, they got to make some money out of this. They can't just, well, I'm sure like they don't pay taxes. I'm sure that YouTube is a complete write-off for Alphabet, which is why when the government, like when those, like when guy like Trudeau starts threatening you know, YouTube and social media to do something, because right now here, okay, so you got Google making money, right? The corporation making money, but they're putting a bunch of money into YouTube because it's free for the public, right? And so it's a free platform for the public. So they're putting all that money into it. So see there, it's a tax deduction. So now Trudeau, right, the man-child, can come and tell those guys, well, no, you can't allow anybody that calls me man-child on your station. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to write that expense off anymore, and you're going to have to just start paying penalties, fines, and taxes. So that's probably what the big change is about. But at the same time, YouTube has to have servers to hold this information. So, you know, so if they can't write this stuff off because the government's threatened them, then pretty much they gotta be viable somehow. And those big corporations pay tax, you know. Anyways, Okay, keeping your word